Today's video is sponsored by Monster Legends, a free-to-play mobile monster collectathon available on all devices. Last time we took brief looks at what 9,000 voters thought of Elden Ring's boss difficulty. Today we'll take a deeper dive across two parts into your thoughts on their quality. Without further ado, let's jump right into the significantly bad bosses. Much like Malenia predictably dominated the difficulty charts, it should be no surprise that Godskin Duo handily claims bottom dishonors. I despise Godskin Duo. It represents everything wrong with the game, taking two enemies that have no business being paired together. They have non-complementary movesets that are designed for 1v1 encounters, then haphazardly stuck together for an artificially difficult fight. Noble should be slow but high damage, while Apostle should be faster to create distance from Noble. Instead, Noble ends up straight up faster with both having ranged fire options. As far as fairness goes, this is one encounter in the game that is straight up lacking. I've harped on it elsewhere, but the Spirit Summon Band-Aid design is painfully clear in these rehashed duos. Rather than create a balanced design, simply summon and forget your troubles. Sleep also works wonders here, but it is a niche tool you'd likely never know to use without a guide. There were a handful of ways to make this fight better though. Make it so killing both in a short time frame ends the fight. Don't allow the arena cover to be destructible. Put a cooldown on their fireball, or balance their aggression so they aren't prone to standing on top of each other, making offensive opportunities so limited. None of this is better than crafting a gank battle to be good from the ground up, but it'd be better than an unfair fight with no fun or thought put into it. Speaking of duos, it should come as no surprise that the remainder of the significantly bad are rampant with them. Crucible and Misbegotten Warrior fall in next, who have to be amongst the worst bosses I've fought in a game ever. Pick two enemies that have nothing in common besides unhinged aggression, hitting as hard as a truck, and being reused almost as many times as I've heard I am Malenia, Blade of Miquella. The arena is terrible, with limited space to work with and nothing to separate them, except for a bunch of random objects that serve no purpose other than to obstruct your movement. And of course, they're another duo to follow the trend. One that follows into the third of the unholy trio of duos, Valiant Gargoyles. Great to do voting on my fourth playthrough. I got a lot of time to really figure out what I like and don't like. And I can safely say, Valiant Gargoyles are ass as hell. But why are they demonic buttsuckage? Designing a boss entirely immune to statuses in a game where it's so fun to build around them is lame. They have highly aggressive AI that likes to overlap combos and their massive hitboxes with one another constantly with no way to break aggro in the arena. Then a poison AoE bullshit move that feels like it has no tell sometimes, and gives the other gargoyle time to do whatever it wants to while you run for your rapidly shrinking life. As Patches would put it, what a shit show. Our quadfecta of booty bosses is rounded out by Fia's champions. The worst really do be gank, 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 and gank. Elden Ring's style of thoughtlessness toss salad of unrelated bosses is lazy, boring bullshit. A collection of beige NPC PvPers you'll stomp before you can blink. You have to beat the gargoyles to get there, so chances are you're geared enough to obliterate them. Even if you do struggle, it's suffering over disappointment. Pick your poison. If you've grown tired of being outnumbered by monsters, try your hand at collecting them with today's sponsor, Monster Legends. With over 900 monsters to collect divided by elements, rarities, and builds, you can craft your own monster empire. Through gathering food, gold, and gems, you can customize and grow your empire to new heights. You can even breed monsters of different elements to obtain completely new species. Simply hatch and feed them to evolve, then level them with runes, relics, and talents. Once you've built your team, you can challenge your friends or other monster mashers online to win rewards and rank in the top leagues. You can even create an alliance to join exclusive events with friends to claim bonus items. Then you can visit YouTuber Islands, where you can find the biggest YouTubers' teams and duke it out with their monsters. Check out the game via the link in the description or the QR code on screen and receive a free bounty of 50,000 food, 300,000 gold, 10 gems, and channel your inner Tomoe with Kaori. Moving on to the notably mediocre, there's a hard drop-off in score to our first non-gank boss, Magma Wyrm. Despite great visual design, the constant charging hitbox is obnoxious, alongside overtuned damage for the areas you encounter them, with the exception of Makar, who probably got clobbered since most people go there later, making it forgettable. As Tyler noted in the quality ranking, the excessive encounters grew tiresome with no differences. Different elemental breaths could have done the trick. Magma Wyrm is more mediocre than offensive, with the exception of Moonveil's Guardian, whose charges have no business in such a small arena. From the mundane to missed potential, Sir Gideon NieR the All-Knowing proves more a copycat than a master sorcerer. A proper moveset would have been a cool conclusion to his questline. Instead, he suffers from being a basic NPC casting the same spells the player can learn. While I understand the knowledge the player shares with Gideon informs this moveset, he could have put his own twist on its usage. Pitting them with a basic NPC model makes it a boring affair, bested by a few jump attacks. They didn't even bother to give him unique music, relegated to a side boss track. Gideon's design feels like a rushed afterthought. I would have much rather they pared down a few mini-bosses if that development time could have enhanced his battle. The creativity here is sorely lacking, unlike our final mediocre matchup, Mimic Tier. There's often a correlation in these rankings between difficulty and quality. If a boss is far too easy, it generally ranks lesser for it. Mimic Tier nearly making it toward the average is a testament to appreciation for its neat design. While the concept is nothing new, Elden Ring's twist with build variety makes it a different experience every playthrough. It's a fun little gimmick you can make as easy or difficult as you want to. Unfortunately, that gimmick being easily exploited by removing all gear before it spawns makes it bottom tier fodder for many. It's a common thought in game development that given the option, players will optimize the fun out of the game. Therefore, developers need to protect the players from themselves. Wouldn't it be hilarious if you decided to go naked, then the game disabled you from re-equipping your gear? Then Mimic Tier turns into Malenia. It solves the problem and punishes the player in a one-time gotcha. From then on, you'd at least know to have something equipped. As is, Mimic Tier allows for as much fun as you're willing to have. Even then, it can only go as far as the basic NPC combat allows it. Taking a step further to flirt with the average, we'll finish out today's list with the middle of the road. Time for another lightning round, defining quality using select portions of your comments. Commander Niall. Niall himself has a fun moveset to fight against, mixing massive sweeps, AoEs, and a quick jab, all of which looks stunning, but pulls two of the most difficult normal enemies out of his ass. An infuriating nightmare to fight. Leonine Misbegotten, a boring boss unworthy of being reused so much throughout the game. Godskin Noble, insane fat fetish close-range boss in a tight arena which is hilarious and scary at the same time. Red Wolf of Radagon. If people are gonna hate Elden Beast for running away, then they should be equally hating bosses like Red Wolf of Radagon. Don't mind if I do. Dragonkin Soldier. Drops down and demonstrates a pretty standard copy-pasted Dragon Soldier fight, but his second phase spews cool lightning. Flying Dragon Agheel. The feeling of fear as I saw that massive beast swoop in, to the rush I got racing towards him on Torrent, staying just outside of Flame's reach was just amazing. Unfortunately, they're reused too much. Godfrey, First Elden Lord. A simplified version of an incredible fight. It's a very methodical battle I enjoy a lot once you get in a rhythm with him. Elimer the Briar. It feels like the boss can adjust its attack range at will, punishing a passive playstyle and forcing you to fight him face to face. The breakable clutter in the arena adds a frantic claustrophobia to the fight. Pair all that with the awesome Vader sword and you've got a recipe for terror. Regal Ancestor Spirit. It's not hard, but the music, atmosphere, and general vibe makes me smile and feel sad simultaneously. In a game that requires such focus and speed to react to anything and everything, I enjoy this moment of reprieve I get with this boss. Godskin Apostle. While a lot of other bosses are better in terms of design, this boss will always be special to me for his unique attacks, banger soundtrack, and balanced difficulty. And rounding out those with a negative score, Fire Giant represents the most divisive boss on today's list. 4,000 total votes, more than any other than the significantly bad bottom 4, yet they were nearly a perfect balance of best and worst votes. It is one of the only fights I really used Torrent to its full potential. The sheer size when I first encountered him left me speechless, and the lore behind him makes me want more backstory in a DLC. When you fight him from the front in Phase 2, you have clear visibility, and it becomes a spectacular battle. The music is also superb. And yet, Fire Giant is just Ancient Dragon from Dark Souls 2. Gargantuan health bar? Check. Can easily 1-2 shot you? Check. Still mind-numbingly easy? Check. Ancient Dragon and his giant cousin are difficult, they're insufferably tedious, making deaths to them all the more frustrating because they're overly bloated damage sponges that have no business dealing as much as they do in return. I knew when I ranked Fire Giant in my personal top 10 best that it'd be divisive, and the many takes in the comments made it clear you either love or hate him. Let's move into the slightly less divisive with another controversial inclusion on my own list, Loretta, Knight of the Haligtree. One of the most underrated bosses, she has a fantastic balance of ranged and melee attacks with metered aggression. There are definitive openings for attacks, and she rewards good dodging and spacing. She does a good amount of damage while not being oppressive, nor is she overly frail. Her arena is a good size as well. She's a very good boss that is fair and challenging. I think what Loretta is missing is uniqueness. By the time most players face her, she's based on a model you've faced at least half a dozen times. Even if she offers the most polished version, I can see how the reuse reduces her luster. Her magic damage is also pretty ridiculous, though that's par for the course by this point in Elden Ring. Estelle, Natural Born of the Void, is up next. Honestly underrated due to its difficulty. It takes the strengths of Ancestor Spirit and Atmosphere, Arena, and Spectacle and cranks them up to 11. There's great build up with the partially grown Estelles around the lands between, and a decent enough challenge mid-game to cap off one of the best side quests in the franchise. I'm inclined to agree. While Estelle does suffer from Elden Beast's propensity to dash away from the player, at least it's telegraphed here with an explosive teleport. Every single one of Estelle's moves has a distinct tell. They're designed to push the player out of range, with some offering clever ways to evade and push forward for bonus attack windows. The only egregious move is the grab, simply because it's hard to identify in time. Even so, Estelle is an above-average bout backed by incredible spectacle. If ever there was a boss that offers too much spectacle, it's Lichdragon Fortisax's Electric Bonanza. I get that he's a reskin of other ancient dragons, but his unique lightning abilities and Deathblight clouds force you to pay attention to your surroundings, making the flow of the fight very different. His spectacle is unreal. I was so impressed by the lightning blade spin attack my first time that I completely forgot to avoid it in any way. Match that with an equally underrated soundtrack and you've got yourself one hell of a boss fight. As a needlessly aggressive player, I'll admit Fortisax's self-lightning compared to Placidusax was an annoyance. There is a telegraph, but no real indication of when it's gonna start. Unlike Placidusax, Fortisax's movement isn't limited while they strike, so you're forced to deal with any number of attacks while being unable to control the flow of battle. I also found the death clouds to be a non-factor, and other than those hazards and the big lightning spin, he's a copy of the many ancient dragons elsewhere. All that said, I think he's placed well and would agree that he leans a little bit more toward the positive. Our final boss of the day was a dark horse from my own top 10, Rennala, Queen of the Full Moon. I adore this fight. The first half is delightfully creepy and fakes you out by making you think that this is all Rennala had to her before Ranni pits you up against Rennala at her peak. She has a good moveset for a spellcaster, the music and visuals are breathtaking, and she has some neat gimmicks. She uses summons in the fight, making her an interesting parallel to you. It's even more interesting when you consider Ranni gave you the Spirit Calling Bell, and now it's being used against you. I think this fight has everything: fun spectacle, a reasonable challenge, and represents the lore expertly. While mage sorcerer bosses are typically lackluster in power and difficulty in this series, Rennala breaks this mold by offering modest early game challenge. Her basic spells are well telegraphed and punishable, but if you get greedy, she'll spin her staff or straight chuck it at you. When you get too cozy, she'll use Ash Summons to keep you distracted. With the right movement, you can evade them and focus on Rennala since they disappear moments later. I love how balanced everything in this fight is. It's a boatload of fun with stellar music, somber lore, and serves as my biggest early game wow moment. Couldn't have said it better myself. Rennala is my favorite sorcerer boss in the series. I personally adore FromSoft's creative fights, even if they aren't the most difficult. The nod to the Deacons of the Deep is well played, with the creepy atmosphere helping to draw you in. That allure breeds a false sense of security before she unleashes her mastery of magic in Phase 2. The arena is absolutely gorgeous, the fight balance is expertly done for early game, and the lore is top notch. I'm sure she gets knocked a bit by preference for those to come, and being too easy for some, but for today, Rennala is a well-deserved finale feature. Let's finish off today with a poetic summary of today's list and a tease of what's to come. Fire Giant is red, duo fights are bad, waterfowl dance is rigged, I would call Godfrey dad. Apologies for the short video, I'm recovering from the Scarlet Rot 19 and need to build up my vocal stamina. I hope you've all been having a brilliant start to your summer. Big thanks to Monster Legends for sponsoring the video. Be sure to check out the game to claim your free starter pack for a big boost to starting your empire. I want to thank you all for watching today, much love to you, and I'll see you very soon in part 2.